Hello, everyone. Welcome to 5 Questions with LeRoy Butler, the first L version of the series this year.
You was looking forward to this, weren't you?
L, loss. You know what L
to
stands for, right?
He's such a hater. He's such a hater.
I hate her. I'm not
You
a
do.
hater.
You didn't want them to go 16-0.
Whatever happens, happens.
Yeah,
it's all just, I have no control, and I just do my job.
Yeah, whatever.
You know.
People know you by now.
Now, if the Packers had done their job, they'd be 14-0 right now.
Don't be so mean.
What happened? What, in your opinion, what happened in this game?
Tom, I really think that Kansas City had a very good game plan. They were going to be very physical on the perimeter. We're going to talk about that in X's and O's. Don't miss that. But you got to give credit to Kansas City because they had a formula and they stuck to it. Kyle Orton, don't turn the ball over.
Right.
Okay? Because the Green Bay Packers, they count on turnovers, and they've been beating people for 13 straight weeks turning the ball over. Secondly, if you get an opportunity to go after Aaron Rodgers, to throw him off any kind of way, do that.
Yeah.
Thirdly, get up on the receivers. Make them beat you. Don't just give them any leverage. Now I am a little shocked you got 2 pass interference calls by Jordy Nelson. But you can see now without Greg Jennings, Jordy Nelson is the #1 wide receiver. Not the #1 target, that was Finley, but the #1 receiver. He didn't put up the numbers a #1 wide receiver would do, and I think that's what may hurt him to maybe getting Pro Bowl votes. Without, Jennings, then you're not a true #1 wide receiver.
I've maintained all along that Jennings and Finley draw so much attention from those other guys,
right.
And allow them to work one-on-one.
Right.
And, with that kind of pressure on them, I don't think those other 3 guys, it shows they're not #1 wide receivers. Greg Jennings is a #1 wide receiver.
No question about it.
Now, one thing that kind of puzzled me, and I thought it was great strategy on the Chiefs' part, was that they kind of lined their ends up wide, or the linebackers, and they kept Rodgers in the pocket. They did not let him get outside. Now, you saw the Packers run a lot of draws right into those holes, but they stopped. They only ran Grant 12 times. I mean, in the end, wouldn't you have kept pounding him and made them stop you?
Coming out of the second half, they received the ball because they deferred. The first play, to give it to Grant, he gets 8, 9, 10 yards. I'm thinking, okay, if it's going to be an ugly game, low-scoring game, that's fine. Then I'm going to just pound the ball. Because remember, you've had so many injuries on the offensive line. These guys are better run blockers than pass blockers. So you're thinking, as long as these guys are running so wide, you can run those draw plays right in there. And it's something maybe Rodgers, had he had to do it again, maybe he could audible to that. But this offense isn't predicated on that. It's about getting the ball down the field.
Yeah, they sort of said after the game that, or on Monday that, they were worried because they only had 2 running backs, 2 healthy running backs, Kuhn and Grant, and they didn't want to overwork them. But, come on, if you're going to lose the game, you gotta work them and use Cobb at running back if you have to.
Well, and that's true, but you can always use Grant in the base and use Kuhn on 3rd down.
Yeah.
You can keep guys fresh, but to not have an opportunity, to me, it's just they missed a lot of opportunities could have had in the run.
Yeah, I think in some cases they got out-coached in this game too. I mean, there were some things they got away from the run. Yeah. Randall Cobb was the one guy who was catching the ball.
He had a bad matchup,
they didn't
but he
work
was taking advantage of it.
Yeah, and they didn't work that matchup. And on defense, we saw the Chiefs had them off balance the whole game.
And see, they can't. It's hard to cover tight ends and things of that nature. But what Kansas City also did, Tom, they had kind of a system with Kyle Orton. If he thought the Packers were going to blitz, he'd call a screen to that side, 2-jet Sally. Sally, you need a word S for screen. And he basically telling the offensive line, it's a jet call. You just let the defensive lineman go, and we'll run a screen to the left or the right side.
Yeah.
And once you hear that, you can let these guys go, dump off a screen. Now you got a back behind 2 big linemen, and just keeps it running. It slows your rush down. And I think that, the Green Bay Packers don't have a great pass rush.
Right.
I think it stopped them from blitzing so much, those screen passes.
Absolutely. Now, by the end of that game, they lost Brian Bulaga to a kneecap sprain, and Derek Sherrod.
What is a kneecap sprain?
That would
never
be
heard of
a sprain in your kneecap.
Okay, I've never heard.
That would be like if you didn't pay off your debts and a guy came by and whacked you in the kneecaps. That would be a kneecap sprain.
But isn't that a picture, though, even with Sherrod having a broken leg?
Oh, man, that was nasty, by the way.
Yeah, it's a picture that they've been painting all year with the injuries with the offensive line. But, Tom, for the most part, they've been winning games.
Mm-hmm.
They've been winning with this patchwork with these guys. Now, yeah, Evan Smith at guard. I mean, you get sitting back at some point, but you get Aaron Rodgers hit so much. And he gets hit above the waist more than any quarterback in the league. So he's taking a lot of hits in his torso and shoulders, arms, neck area, or sometimes in the head, and he just bounces up.
Mm-hmm.
See, when you talk about MVP and all that, you throw all that in there, but Tom, I don't know if they have the depth to continue this way with the offensive line. I don't know. I think the ship has maybe sailed with Mark Tauscher, but he would have been one of the few guys I would have called to try to get him ready 2 weeks down the road.
He hasn't played all year, hasn't practiced all year. How could you bring a guy in?
That means I would have brought him back 4 weeks ago.
Yeah,
when
but
you
they didn't
had
have that problem 4 weeks
well,
ago.
when Balaga first went down, I probably would have brought him in just to see what it looks like.
Yeah,
Or bring somebody in, but I think they like to keep it within, so they'll probably go to the Menendez, what's his name?
Dominguez. Or they could bring Chris Campbell up. They got a tackle on the practice
squad, Campbell. But do you really want to do that, though?
Well, you might have to. You might have to. You know, I mean, Clifton is going to try to practice this week. I think if he can practice this week, he's got to play in the season finale in order to be ready for the playoffs. I don't see how you could come into the playoffs having not played in 3 months.
Well, you know, he's a veteran. He's probably done a lot of things before, but here's the question. I mean, can you win a Super Bowl with that offensive line that finished the game? That finished the game against the
Probably not. Probably not. T.J. Lang at right tackle, Evan Smith at left guard. Right. Who else at left tackle? I don't think so.
Yeah, see, on that surface in Indianapolis, I know we're getting ahead of ourselves with the Super Bowl, but the Packers are going to, that's what they're thinking about. So they got to do some thinking real hard.
Yeah,
about
they'll have enough problems against Chicago. Let's move on to a big subject a lot of fans are talking about, Jermichael Finley. Clearly not one of his best days, but you kind of saw the two-sided coin of Finley. On the one hand, you know, he dropped some passes he should have had. I'd say 2 of the drops were questionable. Yeah. I mean, you know, they would have been good plays if he had made them. On the one hand, he's got those drops. On the other hand, he makes 2 huge plays. You know, he was the only guy who was making big plays out there. Right. What's your take on him, and should the Packers invest in him for the future?
Well, I think you can do a happy medium by giving him the franchise tag, a little bit over $5 million for 1 year, and just see where you're at. But he's such a great weapon. If you see how the offense is all distorted at times without Greg Jennings, if you take him out of that offense, now you can really see it'll be all chaos. So I think you keep him in there. And for the most part, and the reason why I'm a little hard on him, and he's one of my favorite players because I love what he brings to the game, the emotion of it, because you're in these meetings and you know that 85 is not playing and you're going to be the #1 target guy. You got to step up. We need you to step up. We don't know if the game will change if he catches those passes. I never thought anybody could hold McCarthy's offense to 14 points. Never in the wildest dreams that would happen. But for the most part, Finley will bounce back because he always plays well against the Bears. And if you're going to start playing those safeties really deep cover 2 like that, you need your tight end going down that middle. And if he can consistently go down that middle, that team, now they got to get out of the cover 2 and play a lot of straight man-to-man. Now Jordy Nelson can expose some of these terrible corners at the 2nd and 3rd spot. But if that doesn't happen, it'll be hard to see what they want to do, especially down the field.
I think he's got to stop pressing. I think he goes into a game like that saying, you know, I'm going to dominate and I'm going to be, you know, and then you just can't. You have to take it, you know, in stride and play your game. Let the game come to you.
That's great advice for him, because the game will come to him. Don't go out and try to make it. You'll be open, and sometimes you're going to be open, and A-Rod is not going to get you the ball. That's football. But you keep working, because you never know in a 2nd or 3rd progression, he may come back to you. If you're not prepared, you may drop a
We
pass.
saw that on the deep ball into the end
Absolutely.
zone. That ball
Yeah.
wasn't supposed to go to him, but
Right.
Rodgers threw it there
Yeah.
anyways. Okay, speaking of Rodgers,
Yeah.
we're getting towards the end here. He's had, you know, kind of an off game. He, you know, 2 weeks in a row, he's under 100. What do you think he's still the favorite for the MVP?
Well, I think he created the first 11 weeks. He created a sizable gap between Drew Brees, Tom Brady, okay? He created a gap there. The gap now, Tom, between him and Drew Brees is literally inches now.
It's closed, yeah.
Because if Drew Brees breaks Marino's record, which you will do on Monday night, a big audience, but Tom Brady beat Tim Tebow with a 19 rating. So everybody in the country watched that game, see him put up great numbers. Yeah. So what Aaron has to do is, you know what, he's still the favorite. But you got to beat the Bears. And you got to knock, if you're in a position to knock Detroit out of the playoffs, if they for some reason need that game, then he'll win his first MVP. And I think a lot of people say, well, it's a team award for the most part, but sometimes they give it to the individual. I'm going to tell you something. A lot of people would love East Coast bias for Tom Brady to win it. If for some reason Drew Brees breaks that record and throws over 5,000 yards, what's going to hurt Drew Brees real quick? He's going to break that record. But if you look at Tom, 10 quarterbacks are going to throw for 4,000. You may get 2 guys over 5,000, maybe 3. So, you know, this year was just a lot of gaudy yards. But Aaron Rodgers, he can't drop up on the 100 rating again. He cannot. He got to stay above that.
Okay. Well, playing against the Bears, you don't have to really worry about their quarterback throwing for over 100. Caleb Haney has been really bad, and the Bears have to make a decision who they're going to start on Sunday night against the Packers. Is this a game where the Packers need to just destroy the Bears, and can they?
Well, 2 things will happen. The Green Bay Packers got to separate themselves, get back to the elite status. They haven't lost in over a year. Second thing, the Chicago Bears need this game because I really believe if they lose this game, there are going to be a lot of changes in Chicago. Because remember, you know, their coach said, I want to beat Green Bay. Remember last year, he wanted to knock them out of the playoffs? They didn't do it. So here's an opportunity for Green Bay to knock them out any kind of contention. And I'm going to tell you something, that front four of Chicago, you got to look at the film and say, look, I got an opportunity to go against some weak linemen. I'm going after Aaron Rodgers. And you can see if Aaron Rodgers is off, you got a good chance of winning the game. So the whole defensive game plan, going after Aaron Rodgers, playing cover 2 behind it, and hopefully get some opportunities. So this game could be one of the most physical games that you'll see all year.
Yeah, and the one after that against Detroit could be too.
Absolutely.
So we will see. You have any?
Oh, yeah, always.
Yeah.
This is sponsored by CynicsMarket.com. Cynics, Ballaster, owned and operated. And congratulations to Cynics being the Philanthropist Company of the Year. W.J. Kuhn in Oak Creek. Anytime you're in Oak Creek area, go to W.J. Kuhn, and they'll take care of your car. It's winterizing. Do you need tires or oil changes and stuff?
Oh, yeah, I need all that stuff.
Go over there. They'll take good care of you. And again, happy holidays to everybody. And don't forget to always go get your app, your Packer Insider app on your smartphone so you can see me and Tom always.
And check in with X's and O's right after this, and we'll see you next week.